Hello everyone, it's Redemption Tech 25 here today, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the iPad 2019, also known as the iPad 7th generation. So guys, before we begin this video, I wanted to make it clear that this is not the iPad Pro or the iPad Air. This is just the iPad 2019. It is the most basic model that you can get currently. There's no Pro, no Air, it is just the iPad. So when I'm doing the specifications, take that into consideration. It is also the cheapest model that they offer right now. So first, I wanted to just start with my iPad. So I got this around Christmas time. We got it at Target. It was a very good price at Target. It was $250 at Target, which is significantly lower than it is currently. It is $330 currently right now. So we did get it for a very good discount, and I got it in the 32 gigabyte space gray, just Wi-Fi, no cellular. You can see 7th generation, and then this is what it looks like out of the case. I also did pick up a case. Also, this is a spec case, really good design. I love how it has the stand, so you can stand it up on a table and watch videos. And what's also interesting about this case is that it also has a camera protection. So the camera hole would go right there, and then it can protect the camera so that the camera doesn't get damaged, so you can continue taking live pictures, which we'll talk about later. So I wanted to go over the color options that it comes in. It can come in gold, silver, or space gray. I have the space gray version, and this is no different from last year's iPad 6th generation. It came in the same colors as last year and the year before with the iPad 5th generation. So the biggest difference that I've seen with this iPad so far is that it is bigger than last year's iPad. Last year's iPad had a 9.7-inch display. This year's iPad, the iPad 7th, had a 10.2-inch Retina display. So when you're watching videos, the screen is bigger. The bezels are still there. It's not the infinity display like the iPhone 10 and 10R and 11 and the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro has no bezels at all, and it has the slide up home button type thing. But this iPad looks like it looks like an older iPad, except when you notice that the screen is bigger. It still has Touch ID, and what else was interesting was that it has an A10 Fusion chip, which is the same chip that was used in last year's iPad 6. This is interesting because the iPhone 7, which came out in 2016, had an A10 Fusion chip. So you can tell this chip is already 3 years old, so they brought it back, which was kind of interesting. I guess they wanted to keep it cheaper, and that'll definitely keep the price low when it's an A10 Fusion chip. The lower the chip, the lower the price. So that's probably why they did this, because the A10 chip is the A11 chip, which is the chip that came out with the iPhone 8 in 2017, is a lot faster than the A10 Fusion chip. So if they would have put in the A11 Fusion chip, the price would have at least had to gone up $100. So they wanted to keep a budget iPad, so the A10, I haven't really had many problems using it because I currently use an iPhone 8, which has an A11 chip, and it feels about the same speed as the iPhone 8. Now, I've had the iPhone 8 for about 2 years, so it could be like slowing down, just because when you have a phone for a decent amount of time, it does slow down. But the A10 Fusion chip does not seem that bad, especially since it has 3 gigabytes of RAM. Last year's iPad only had 2 gigabytes of RAM. So it definitely is faster. It is an upgrade in speed, but it's nothing too major. You can get this iPad up to 128 gigabytes of storage, just like last year's iPads. It is compatible with Apple Pencil. It's compatible with the Smart keyboard and Bluetooth keyboards. And I wanted to mention something about the Smart keyboard that Apple sells. They made it easier to connect. You can see those 3 little dots there. It makes it very easy for the Smart keyboard to connect. But the Smart keyboard is like $200. So most people will probably just buy third-party keyboards, I'm guessing, Bluetooth keyboards. I don't know why you would buy Apple's, but in case you wanted to buy Apple's, they made it even easier for you with the Lightning connector and the Smart keyboard compatible with Smart keyboards and Bluetooth keyboards. It comes in 32 gigabytes and 128 gigabytes. I have the 32, that's the lowest. It doesn't come in 64 or anything in between. It's just 32 or 128. And they do this just because most of the people that buy this iPad will not be using it for too major stuff. Like the iPad Pro is probably going to be used more for work, and therefore it has half a terabyte of storage. This iPad only has 128 gigabytes because this iPad will mostly be used for watching videos and playing games, which you don't need that much. We're going to go over the size and weight a little bit. It is taller. It is wider. There's really not much of a difference. It's only 0.4 inches. Not that much of a difference in height or width, but it is noticeable when you look at the two. It was a little bit heavier. And I also forgot to mention you can get it in just Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi plus cellular. Obviously, if you get it in Wi-Fi plus cellular, it will be an extra $100. So the display. So it features a Retina display. This is the same as last year's, nothing too much to brag about. It has a 10.2-inch diagonal, like I mentioned before, so that is different from last year. It has a little bit better resolution than last year. Again, not much. It is a bigger display, so you'd expect it to have a different resolution. It's the same 500 max brightness, typical. It has fingerprint-resistant coating, the same as last year's iPad 6 and the year before iPad 5. Like I said, the chip is an A10 chip, the same as the last year's iPad. The iPad 5th generation, which came out in 2017, had an A9 chip, and they have a 64-bit desktop class architecture. And then it has an embedded M10 coprocessor, which is the same as last year's iPad 6. So the battery is the same as last year. It says up to 10 hours of surfing the web on Wi-Fi, watching video, or listening to music, which is the same as last year, and actually even the year before, so nothing's different with the power and battery. And it is compatible with Apple Pencil 1st generation and smart keyboards. Next we'll be going on to the camera. Now this is also very disappointing, okay? Because it has an 8 megapixel camera, which is not very good. It's not a very good camera at all. It has f2.4 aperture, and it does have live photos. Now, this is the same as last year's iPad and the iPad 5. So you may be asking, what did they really change? I'm just going to say it right now, really what they changed. They made the screen bigger, and they added an extra gigabyte of RAM. There are little differences, like it's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit taller. But all this is the same. It's tap to focus, HDR for photos, and video recording. It does 1080p HD video recording at 30 FPS. This is the same as last year's and the 5th generation. It does slow-mo support for 720p at 120 FPS. Everything else is the same. 3x video zoom, video stabilization. It's all the same from the last few years of iPad models. Alright, so we have the front camera, and I wanted to make this a special point. The front camera is pretty terrible. This is not even a joke. It is 1.2 megapixel photos. This is the same as the last few years of models. Now, I know, this iPad is okay. This iPad is good for just watching videos. You're probably not going to be taking many videos and photos with an iPad. Let's be real here. But you would think, they would bump it up a little bit, maybe, I don't know. But it still supports live photos and Retina Flash. This is the same as last year's and the year before. Again, nothing to brag about. That's all I'm saying is there's nothing really to brag about. It has 720 HD video recording. It is HDR for photos and videos, and it also has burst mode, what we've had in Apple's devices for a few years now. Siri, it has Hey Siri, and it listens to identify songs. This is the same. This was introduced with the iPhone 6s in 2015. You would think they would still have it. They also do. And, that's basically all that is really to mention at this point. So what are my thoughts on this iPad? What are my, should you buy it or not? Here's the thing. So it is $330 now. I got it for a really good deal. If you can get it for a good deal, I would say this iPad is worth it. But if you can't get it for a good deal, then I would just say go for the iPad 6th generation. Because as we can see here, there's not many differences between the iPad 7th and the iPad 6th generation. You can get the iPad 6th generation for $200 on Amazon, which is a really good deal. I got this iPad 7 generation for $250. That's why I decided to buy it. But there are notable differences. I'm sure it is faster if you're doing SpeedMonkey and all that stuff like that. But, it's not much. It's not going to be much faster than the 6th generation. And the 6th generation iPad, I feel like it just came out. You could either go for the iPad Air if you need a better iPad like the iPad Pro, which supports the A12 chip, then go for the iPad Pro. If you need a higher performing iPad, you're going to have to go for the Air. You're going to have to spend a little extra money. This is not an iPad that you can use as a computer. Like they say, unlike a computer, stuff like that, but it's not really a computer. It's a tablet. It's a glorified tablet, and you're not going to be able to do much stuff on it. You're not going to be able to play many games that require a lot of quality and screen and resolution and stuff like that. But, it is good for just watching videos and playing simple games like, Clash of Clans and those types of games, free games. But you're not going to be able to play like Call of Duty Mobile and stuff like that on here in Fortnite. It just won't work that well. I tried doing it. It's okay. It's probably better than my iPhone 8. The biggest thing, that I would say also is that the 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is nice. It does make it go faster. It does make everything really a lot faster. But, there's not much of a difference. So if you don't want the iPad 7 and you don't think it's worth it, just go for the 6th generation or go to the Air, the iPad Air or iPad Pro, because, or just spend a little extra money and get the better chip, get the better camera, get the better processor. Get the better aperture. So that's my thoughts on the iPad 7th generation. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to comment down below and like and subscribe.